And welcome to Orthodoxy First. My name is Luke Kendrat. I'm your host tonight and always, and we are joined tonight once again by our very good friend and a very special guest, David, the real Med White. David, let's go ahead and give a quick mic check here, make sure that everyone can hear us.
Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear my Turkish voice? Hello, hello, hello.
Cool. It sounds like we're all online and good to go. All right, fantastic. Well, in that case, welcome everyone. We've got a big topic to talk about tonight, something that has been developing, a developing story, if you will. Something going on with our good friends over at Orthodoxy and Dialogue and a priest by the name of Father Mark Hodges. It's a recent scandal in the church. And we're going to have to talk about it because I think we're going to be hearing a lot more about it as time goes on. And I think that more priests are going to run into the same problem that Father Mark did. And we're only going to see this trend continue with the Biden presidency. But before we get into it tonight, David, if you want to go ahead and give yourself a quick introduction for those of our friends who may not know who you are.
All right. My name is David. That's my baptismal name. And I'm just a guy who makes videos about Orthodox theology, and that's kind of it. And that's really the best introduction I can get. I don't really know what else I can say. I've made videos on icons. I've made videos on Christological controversies. I've made videos against Roman Catholics. I made videos explaining Orthodox doctrine on certain issues. Some of my videos are advanced. Some of my videos are basic. I am pretty sure if you check my channel, check the videos out, you'll find at least one video that's going to be like, this is interesting. I'll see what this guy has to say. So that's really all there is. And yeah, I think that's all I can say. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, David's got a great channel. If you guys are able, I linked his channel in the description. Go ahead and give that a look if you're able to. He's got some great content on there. But I want to go ahead and just get right on into it tonight because we do have a lot to talk about with Father Mark. And there are a couple of articles, which are coincidentally enough, all from Orthodoxy and Dialogue, that I'd like to read through. And we can kind of discuss this because it's very disgusting, but I'll give you basically a general background of what happened here. So Father Mark was a priest within the OCA. He was up at St. Paul I know it's in Ohio. I believe it's St. Paul is the name of the parish. And he attended the Trump rally on the 6th, which of course ended with the storming of the Capitol building. And Orthodoxy and Dialogue did not take kindly to this. And for those of you who don't know who Orthodoxy and Dialogue, what they are, I should say, they are really more appropriately named Sodomy and Dialogue because all that they truly discuss is homosexuality and sexuality, period, within the church, which is not a very appropriate topic to be discussing really at all, except for maybe between a parishioner and a priest. But regardless, they put this stuff out here and they take a position that is contradictory to the actual Orthodox position on homosexuality. So they put out an article talking about Father Mark Hodges, who attended this rally on the 6th. Now, he did not participate in the storming of the Capitol. Regardless of how you feel about that, he did not participate in it. He was outside, and where a lot of the other guys like Nick Fuentes and Jaden McNeil and all those guys were, he would have been in that same vicinity, not actually going in. So I don't understand what the huge deal about this was. Now, a large part of the complaint coming from Orthodoxy and Dialogue is that it was on the Feast of Theophany on the new calendar, and he is an OCA priest. Of course, and we'll get into this, they don't really care about that at all. And what David and I were talking about before the stream began is that had he gone to a pride rally, a pride march, or the Biden inauguration, it would have been an entirely different story. They wouldn't have cared. No article would have been written. But regardless, the article was written, and he has now been suspended from from the OCA in general, and has now been forced to resign from his parish. And he has been replaced already by another priest. So very unfortunate situation. We have got to pray for Father Mark, pray for that parish, because this isn't, to be honest, this is something we're going to see continue as time goes on. We're only going to see more priests be convicted for being right-wing if we allow this type of stuff to continue. So we have to make sure that we understand the position of the Orthodox Church on issues such as this, and also know that Orthodoxy and Dialogue, they're outliers. These are guys who are completely antithetical to the actual Orthodox teaching of the church. They're inappropriately named and they're disgusting. I'm not a fan of them at all. And they need to stop confusing people because we don't teach what they teach. The Orthodox Church does not teach what they teach on sexuality or left-wing politics in general. So, David, we'll go ahead and get into this because we do have a lot to talk about. But
So,
let me.
There's a lot
Go
I
ahead.
can cover. The first thing I want to say is that we can call them paganism and dialogue, heterodoxy and dialogue. They're all heretics. The people that write for them, the people that are associated with them are all heretics. Don't follow them if you want to go to heaven. That's number one thing I want to say first. Because there's multiple different stuff that they've done. I'm pretty sure most of us even know about them. So the second thing I want to talk about is about the OCA priest. I want to talk about what he did, for example, with the whole. I haven't made any comments on it because part of the reason is because, you never know what YouTube's gonna do. But also another part of the reason is that I'm a Turkish citizen. Look, I'm not an American. I don't think I should even be saying anything about this. But I will say this. There's one thing I will say. He didn't storm the building, as you said. He was outside. If this was a pride parade, he would have been celebrated by these people. Now, there's one thing to note is that didn't Christ hang out with deplorable people himself, right? Aren't we celebrating that? Aren't we considering that as something good? Didn't he go with tax collectors and prostitutes, right? You see the liberals constantly point this out, which obviously we don't deny. But what I want to point out is that suddenly you goes to a march and suddenly a priest should be excommunicated and like deposed for doing that. I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense. But hypocrisy, that language, I don't use that anymore because they don't care, right? They don't care. But it's just to point out that these people just want you dead. These people just want you gone. They want you to be rotting on the streets. They don't care about anything else. Okay. Another thing I wanted to mention is kind of about the OCA. Now, I'm not a ex-church onlyist. I am a no church onlyist. Okay. And OCA is obviously has grace. It's obviously part of the church. But this is the kind of behavior you will honestly really see from OCA. OCA is very notorious for doing something like this. And I'm not surprised it was the OCA. First of all, these were the people that deposed Metropolitan Jonah, and everyone knows in that world that Metropolitan Jonah did nothing wrong. But why am I even mentioning this? Well, you can say, well, that doesn't matter. It might have been something else. Well, they also got someone called Lazar Puhalo, who's basically Orthodoxy and Dialogue personified. He promotes LGBT marriage just straight up. He promotes transgenderism. In fact, there was someone who was transgender and he started to revert back to being, himself again. And Lazar Puhalo told him to kill himself. This is the kind of a guy that they made a bishop. And then the funny part is all the anti-Toll House arguments come from him too. So the birth of the anti-Toll House argumentation actually comes from Lazar Puhalo. So this is who they make a bishop. Now, thankfully, he has no one in his jurisdiction. He's literally a bishop only in name. But the fact still remains that he was made a bishop, and he was, by the way, an old calendarist as well before that. And then he's like, oh, I was wrong. Which basically makes you ask this question. Like, if you want to go to old calendars, you have to ask yourself this question. How did the old calendarists accept him? Right? They accepted him. Like, knowing what kind of a person he is. But OCA, again, they throw out these good people and they let in these evil people in. So this is something you really see from OCA. So what I'm really kind of getting at is, I'm not saying let's complain about OCA 24/7. No, what I'm saying is that we should know about what jurisdictions will do something like this. Like, Rokor has obviously problems, Goark has problems, Antioch has problems that we can name. I cannot see Rokor doing something like this. Maybe they have done it in history, I don't know, but I can't see them doing something like this. Whereas OCA, I've seen them do something like this on the regular. And what I expect for that priest is, I will not be surprised if he got picked up by Rokor or any other jurisdiction, really. But how that will go, I don't know. But as we've seen, there's obvious persecution
David, give me
going
one
on.
sec. You just cut out there.
Oh, what do I need to say again? When did I cut out? Hello?
Hang on. Some reason I I just got a spam call. Okay, I think we're back.
Spam call. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry,
All
that,
right.
that just was weird.
All
All
right.
right, go ahead. Keep talking.
Okay. I was gonna say. I forgot what I was gonna say. But so far, those are all my comments that I have on the matter so far. From what I can remember. Um.
Yeah,
I remember
wasn't
I remember what I forgot. I'm sorry. I'll finish this up. We had this monk, right? This monk on some part of the British Isles. What did he say? Remember what he said? There is no persecution against Christians, right? Blatantly said you guys are being too paranoid, and now he's one of the like most popular Orthodox online monks, which that doesn't even make terminological sense, but whatever. He said there's no Christian persecution. Well, explain this then. We have priests being
yeah,
persecuted and attacked for attending attending a march with people. It's not as if there's anything like explicitly anti-Christ about. If it was an LGBT pride march, even then, like you have to kind of ask, is he in support or is he there in rebuke? Right? They didn't even
right,
ask that, right? None of them even asked that. They just straight up, okay, get this guy gone because they want you dead.
right. Exactly. That's the thing, and that's the problem. They literally like there's not going to be dialogue with these people,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately. And I don't think that's really hit enough people who are, Orthodox Christians, period. I don't think that's really well understood. Is like these guys, they don't want dialogue. They want
Mm-hmm.
to crush us. They
Mm-hmm.
want to get rid of the semblance that, that orthodoxy is right wing. They're sick and tired of hearing that. They want to completely revamp what the
Mm-hmm.
church teaches in order to push their own political agenda.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where I get, personally, I get sick and tired of hearing people say, orthodoxy isn't, right or left wing.
Oh, yeah.
It's a neutral. And now, while there is truth to the fact that orthodoxy
Mm-hmm.
is, transcendent of politics and of political ideologies, that doesn't mean that we don't err on the side of the right in terms of
Mm-hmm.
traditionalism and conservatism in general, and promoting things like family values. And you look at Jesus Christ, they constantly try to make him into this socialist revolutionary. That's
Mm-hmm.
just not the case. But when you have, and of course we know that's not the case, but when you have guys like Orthodoxy and Dialogue, what's his name one more time? It's Giancarlo Sanfilippo or something.
Giacomo,
Giacomo.
I am a homosexualipo. I don't
That's
know.
right. Yep. Yeah, Giacomo Sanfilippo. He's ridiculous,
Yeah.
and he is someone who is going to keep on saying that Christ was a socialist revolutionary. We need to be more like Christ because he was a socialist revolutionary, not because he was the Son of God and embodied everything good in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what gets very tiring dealing with these people, because they have a fundamental misconception of what happened at that time and who Jesus Christ was. So
Yeah, I think last time we touched on this topic as well on like whether, first of all, like we will agree, for example, God transcends logic, but we don't say he contradicts logic. Likewise, orthodoxy transcends politics, but that doesn't mean orthodoxy has a place in the political compass, you might even say. And when you when you look at the lives of the saints, when you look at scripture, it's very difficult for you to say that this is some like inclusivist leftist idea. No, like even secular historians agree that Orthodoxy, Christianity, is a very exclusivistic religion with, for them, that has a strict set of moral laws. They look at people like Saint Justinian, say he is authoritarian, but that's the ideal rule. That's the ideal Orthodox rule we have. Authoritarian rule. That's the ideal. Okay. That doesn't
right.
mean we promote left authoritarianism. Obviously, that's obviously evil. But what I'm getting at is, again, you look at church history, you look at the lives of the saints. There's nothing left wing, and people think that redistributing wealth is somehow this like left wing thing. I mean, that is incredibly childish. That's all I can say. I mean, do they think that like people who are right wing never donate? In fact, I think
Right.
statistically, right wing people donate more, right?
Right.
So that's actually
Right.
like the opposite. They redistribute their wealth even more because they don't want
Right.
the government doing that. They want themselves to redistribute. But
Exactly.
in
I
the
think
other
like
scenarios, they don't
right
have
wing
enough
people.
money to even do that, right? In
Right.
the other
Right.
case,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Exactly. I think right
mhm,
wingers are more like ready to donate to charities and things like that because people who are left wing are more in favor of these socialist governmental policies. They're not in favor of these
so
private
what I'm
charities.
really getting at is I mean, Orthodoxy is neither left or right. Obviously it's a correct slogan, but I will not use it today because of the fact that it gives you the idea that it's politically neutral, and it's not. We're not
Right.
politically neutral. We're not called to be politically neutral. You look at Redditors, these filthy Redditors,
Right.
okay? They call Saint Paisius a rack for his political views. I mean, what kind of an idiot do you have to be to say something like that? Oh, Saint Paisius was a rack. He's a holy man, but his politics is just crazy. So like, what does that mean then? And then you look at other saints as well, and their politics are so. Every single saint had the wrong politics, but somehow the demoniacs in hell had it right politically. So is that like so? Or saints in heaven, they're wrong in politics, but demoniacs in hell, they're burning right now. Oh, they're completely right about politics. They're completely right about the world.
Right.
So we're gonna listen to them. Give me a break, man. Of course we're not gonna listen to these people. And you look at the liturgical tradition, you have the crowning of the married couples. That's look, there's obviously a monarchist kind of custom there, and that still exists today, right? The idea of the kingdom. It's even talked about the kingdom of heaven. Okay, the kingdom of heaven is not an accidental thing or anything like that. There's a purpose of why we call heaven a kingdom. Why we call Christ King of Kings. We don't call Christ President of Presidents, right? We don't call Christ Senator of Senators. He's King of Kings. And this doesn't mean that presidents don't have like real political power, because they do. But the point that I'm getting at is that the Orthodox mindset of earthly rule is the idea of kingdom. It's not this idea of democracy where we let people do whatever, which by the way, it's not even democracy, because democracy is not even real. It doesn't even properly exist. And I made a point about this that I want to make again on Twitter. I mean, the idea of a representative is that a representative represents the people that voted him in, right? That elected him.
Constituents, yeah.
But if the people don't have power, but the representative does, then the representative is not representing the people. He's representing something else. Maybe himself, maybe people with a lot of money. And by the way, voting is not power, especially considering how we don't even know if the votes are legitimate or not, and whether you're like right or left. You have to admit it. You can't play this game because no one is ever certain of votes. This happened in 2000. This happened even in 2012. This happened in 2016. Now it's happening today. Okay, and even if voting gave you had some power in it, what are you basing your decisions on? What the media tells you. So really, the power is not yours. It's media's. Media is the one influencing you who to vote. So you don't have any power of your own. And if you don't have it and the representative has it, then who does he represent? Okay, so it's not even a real system. It's a corrupt, I don't even call it oligarchy, because even an oligarchy has more honor than whatever this screwed up system that we have today. Internationally, not just America, but just all around the world. And Orthodoxy is completely against that. It's completely against this. If Orthodoxy was pro-democracy, you will expect Christ to, or any of the saints, make a prophecy and say, one day democracy will reign and it will be the most wonderful thing ever. None of them say that.
Right. Instead, you have prophecies about like the Marble Emperor returning, like the Tsar coming back. Those are the prophecies we hear. It's
exactly.
A joke.
So
yeah.
I don't know, what I'm getting at is that Orthodoxy has some political things to say. It has its say on the world of politics, and it's above politics, but it has its say on that as well.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. So we're going to go ahead and get into these articles here and just read through this ridiculousness because it is ridiculous. As I move on over here, don't forget to smash that like button on this video. Send in a super chat either via Entropy, which I've sent the link. It's in the description, and I sent it in the live chat, or via YouTube. Either one does not matter to me. All right, here we go. So we're going to go ahead and first read their open letter, which is OCA priest participates in Trump riot and is reported to FBI. So the following letter was sent to Archbishop Paul Gasios, the Orthodox Church in America, Diocese of Chicago in the Midwest, on January 9th. This morning, the author shared it with Orthodoxy and Dialogue for dissemination to our readers around the planet. To keep him or her safe from the very real and present danger of death threats in today's socio-political climate, we are publishing his or her letter anonymously. Yeah, death threats to the left, because that's a real thing.
Publishing it anonymously. That's very nice. Thank you. I'm sure
right.
I definitely believe that. Yeah.
Yeah. And there are two addendums here. One of them says, an observant reader informs us that Father Hodges has scrubbed his Facebook page of most references to his participation in the Trump riots since our publication of this open letter yesterday, which I checked his Facebook, and it's still pretty pro-Trump. And I mean, I don't know really what they're referring to here. And then there's another article that they said it continues on with this, which we will read later. But anyway, so we're going to go ahead into the article here. Greetings, Vladika Paul, a blessed theophany to you. Fellow Orthodox believers and I wanted to report that one of your clergy, the very Reverend Mark Hodges, was present at Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. during the siege attempt of the U.S. Capitol building.
Okay, can we pause there? Can we pause there?
Sure.
Siege attempt. That's a very... I'm not going to make it, but... How can you... Okay, I'll just say this. Let's say you're trying to invade Antioch, like the castle of Antioch. You're going to siege Antioch. What happens when you enter the castle and like there's no enemy forces? What happens when you take it? That's just a question I have. You take it and say, this is mine. Did that happen in Capitol Hill? That's just the question I have. You don't need to answer it. So
yeah, I mean, seriously, that's the problem too, is like all of these, like this inflammatory language, it's like clearly they're trying to anger people reading. They're trying to anger people on the right. It's ridiculous. And I can't stand it. That's why I can't stand reading this stuff. It makes me very upset, and just like talking like insurrection and like making us out to be the revolutionaries is what's ridiculous. Like we didn't just see a soft revolution in our country.
Yeah.
But anyway, so during the siege attempt of the U.S. Capitol building, this was a premeditated plan, as he posted it on his social media page, and there is both photographic and video footage of his presence there, which is true. Fellow Orthodox noticed the presence of a man in a cassock from another social media video of the coup attempt. We originally thought it was a priest from our own jurisdiction, but we found out it was from your diocese. Considering the Metropolitan Tikhon has condemned the events of the day, I thought it would be best that you knew. Forgive me if you already know, but given that he promoted the start of the Second American Revolution in his post, it is concerning to many lay people that a clergy in his position would have been present at an event that ultimately led to 5 people dying for no reason. 4 of those people were from what were like natural causes, and it was one person who was killed by police. But regardless, that was all at the Capitol and within the Capitol. He had no part in that. He went, as far as he was concerned, he was going to a pro-Trump rally.
Yep.
I don't think anyone truly expected it to devolve into what it went to by the end of it. I mean, again, whether or not you are in support of that, epic day. But in addition to letting you know about this, I will also let you know that his actions and presence have been reported to the FBI as they have requested information about those who were present. This has been done anonymously to protect them from harm. I pray that this violence and hurt will end in our nation and in our world. So, number one, I think that the irony of this situation is lost on a lot of people, where you have the OCA, which is like essentially a diaspora Russian jurisdiction. And now here in America, you have people reporting priests to the state. And I think that, that's very, very reminiscent of what happened in Russia during the revolutionary period. And we're starting to see that just again. And again, people who deny that there's any Christian persecution going on, just take a look at this. Take a look at the fact that we have priests literally being reported to the state by parishioners. They're not safe anywhere anymore. And we're going to continue to see this type of behavior. And I think, you can give me your thoughts on this, David. I think it's only going to get worse under a Biden presidency. Yeah. And it's going to be for less serious crimes, right? For anything, for speaking out against homosexuality anomalies.
Just on a basic level, this is what happens when priests desperately try to keep parishioners in the church. What I mean by that is that there's a real problem that a lot of priests are going through, where like a lot of them do want to be like rigoristic, but they cannot be, because the moment they try that, like, most of the people going to church will leave them. But this is what happens when you let these people stay in. They're just going to make it worse, right? And they're just going to make it worse for everyone. And it's not as if they're going to like be in a good state, like staying like this. There needs to be something that has to change. So this, I think, is a result of ultimately this, like parishioners reporting priests and whatnot, is a result of the lack of rigor from the side of the priests. These parishioners shouldn't. This is going to sound kind of cold, but these parishioners, if they're going to fold because they are told to be, they're told to follow Christ properly, if they're going to fold because of that, do we, like, should they be here? Is it even good for them to be here? I mean, that's a legitimate question I will ask. And this is exactly what happens. They just make it much more difficult for actual Orthodox Christians that want to practice the faith. And when you look at the letter as a whole, you'd think that this guy killed someone there, but all he did, all it says is that he attended this whole thing, and this whole thing resulted in a couple of people getting inside the Capitol building. So like, okay, like you can really just dissect it that way. So that should have been what Archbishop Paul, I believe his name, should have done. But apparently Archbishop Paul is more concerned with kowtowing to a bunch of heretics because he completely listened to what these people said. So that just goes to show that, I think, first of all, that just goes to show that these people, including the bishops, some of these bishops don't have our best interests in mind. This is a very harsh reality that people don't want to hear, but it's the truth. Okay, just look at church history. We've had various bishops constantly throughout history that never had our best interests in mind. They had their own best interests in mind. We had Simoniac bishops that bought their position in just to have some geopolitical authority in an easy way. You know, we had bishops like this just 300, 400, 200 years ago. So it's nothing surprising, but it's the sooner we learn where these people are, the better, so that we can actually know what to do against it, instead of be like a bunch of sitting ducks and oh yeah, please screw me over. Like, we can't do this. Okay, we already let them do this because of this I'm gonna name it this way, this less than 1% death rate virus that we are dealing with even today. And now we're gonna let them do this? No, I'd rather be prepared. Okay, I'd rather be prepared. And there's a lot of there's a better way to be martyred over something. Being martyred over a bunch of weaklings, I wouldn't want to go out like that. I'd want to go out in a different way, not like that. I won't want to like be persecuted by a bunch of OID weaklings. Okay, I'd much prefer to combat against them before they do any more damage. And as we know, the Fordhamites and these people are all connected with each other, probably in more ways than one, both physically and mentally. And yeah, we just gotta know these people. We just gotta say, look, we don't want these people. And as I said, I think the best way is just let whatever priests to let them know. Said, if you see this Orthodoxy and Dialogue people run of it, like, you should speak out against, or you should know that these people are evil people, right? We can't have them.
Right.
Otherwise,
exactly.
Now let me tell you the alternative, because this is what's happening in the Roman Catholic world today. Let me tell you the alternative. James Martin this day on Twitter made a thread, like posting blasphemous icons, basically saying, "Oh, Poland jailed people for 2 years for making this rainbow icon of the Theotokos." And then he like kind of made this point. He's like, "Oh, the rainbow icon is great." And like, you have a bunch of people criticizing for it. Do you know how they're criticizing him? Okay, they're basically saying, "Honorable, respectable father, blah blah blah. I don't agree." It's like, bro, what are you? You think he's gonna take you seriously? Do you think that guy is gonna read that and he's like, "Yeah, this guy is nice and he seems right. I'll listen to what he says"? No. Do you think people who have somewhat of an inclination to go that route, do you think they're gonna see that and they're gonna be like, "Huh, you know, this guy is very nice, so he must be right"? No. He's gonna think, why is this guy says it's blasphemy, and then he's still like acting as if this guy's a respectable person. So either he doesn't believe or he's a pussy. Okay? And honestly, I think it's both. We don't want to be like that. Okay? And that's what people complain about me because I am mean. Okay, let me be a nice guy. Oh, I'm so sad that this priest got deposed. I'm crying with him. Should we say this then? No.
Right, right,
You look at the life of Saint Eutymius the Great. This guy is a very soft-spoken, very gentle monk. He's obviously a saint. He's very highly venerated and all that, very highly respected at his time in the 5th century. And then you read his life, and there's a section called On Doctrine. And suddenly it's 180. Suddenly, Saint Eutymius turns into this gigantic meanie who makes fun of people who believe in Origenism, and he attacks people for believing in universalism and says, "You are an idiot!" Like, just regularly. In fact, in a way, he will be barely be distinguishable from a angry guy on Reddit or on that angry guy on Twitter who attacks like Fordhamites and calling him you're a this and that. He will be no different, because that's how we should be treating our doctrines. Okay, doctrines, dogma, these are important things. We have to protect them, and we can't just be nice to people who obviously hate us. There's going to be misleaded people, but here's the thing. You think bishops are stupid people? Do you think bishops are a bunch of clueless people who have no idea what they're doing? They know exactly what they're doing, okay? They know exactly what... These people know exactly what they're doing. So that's a cope I used to give to myself when I was a catechumen. That's absolutely not true. These people know exactly what they're doing. And the sooner we realize this, I think the better we're going to be able to respond and actually get good people on our side. We already have, like Metropolitan John. He's already on our side, you can say. Bunch of Father Peter here's very influential person. We're basically on the same team on matters such as these. The saints, right? God himself, like we have God on our side. We are on the side of God.
right.
But
Exactly.
we have to protect his church better. Otherwise, God is going to say, okay, you can't protect it. I'll do it myself. And when God protects his church, usually everyone gets what they deserves, including the people who are trying to protect it. So,
Right.
you don't want to. We've already seen that in Old Testament. When Israel couldn't protect itself, what does God do? He protects them, but sometimes
Right.
it's
Exactly.
not the way we expect.
In his way.
It's the most efficient
Right.
way.
Exactly. No. Right. Right. Well, and that's the thing too. And what you were saying, people, it's like oftentimes, I think back to Saint Nicholas, right, at the Council of Nicaea, where what did he do? He reached across the table and literally slapped Arius. And that's exactly what we're dealing with right now, is heresy to that same degree, and especially when it comes to homosexuality, because that can influence lives in such a specific way, and it can really cause someone to be led astray and end up, being sent to hell because of something that that was very easily preventable should there have been a good bishop or a good priest taking care of that situation. So this is truly a matter of life and death here, and we need to treat it like that. And I think, unfortunately, it's oftentimes just too overlooked. Oh, these groups, like, these guys like Orthodoxy and Dialogue, they're small enough that we don't have to worry about it. It's not all Orthodox Christians, but the problem is here that we need to establish what is the correct teaching and why is nothing being done about these people who are preaching heresy. So yeah, it comes down to our bishops.
And let's not also forget, after St. Nicholas slapped Arius, he got sent to detention. And I believe Christ or the Virgin Mary appeared to him. Oh, Christ appeared to him and said, yeah, why are you suffering on account of me? Right? So God himself approves what St. Nicholas did. Okay, so you have these people like, oh, people should stop glorifying. God glorified it himself. Like, that's all we need. Okay? So, yeah, definitely. And that's the that kind of attitude that we had against heresy is really what protected us like all this time. And when you read the history of Byzantium, one thing you realize is that both bishops and the politicians and whatnot became weaker and weaker over time. They started to become less and less zealous, and that's kind of like what brought them to the downfall. And the only zealous people were left were who? A bunch of pagan philosophy idiots. Those were the only people like barely left. And God needed to send saints in order to protect the church, and even that wasn't enough. And the empire fell. Same with Russia. You think people are like, "Oh, Russian Empire fell. That's so sad." Have you seen the last 100 years of the Russian Empire? It was not a nice place. Okay, people gave up the faith, and now we're seeing it like kind of like with the faithful in the U.S. before we even started yet. Like, people are
Yeah.
already incredibly weak before we even started. And that's what's kind of making me say, you know, what's going on? And that's, I think, is why God is going to allow persecution, is to make us stronger. What does Saint Cyril of Alexandria say in Glaphyra? I just made a video on Saint Cyril's commentary on the Old Testament, Genesis. What does he say? He says, being persecuted strengthens and refines your soul and makes you more powerful and superior over others. And that's why we need persecution, because we need people to be stronger. And that's what's gonna, if it goes like this, if you want persecution, do what you're doing right now. If you don't want persecution, then start preparing for it.
Stand up.
Yeah, you have to stand up. If you want persecution, keep on going, right? If you're a masochist or anything like that, then you know, do what you want to do. Okay.
Right, exactly. No, that's exactly right. And we have to start prepping now. And again, it comes down to how you're being taught when you're a catechumen, you know, and then when you're moving into the first stages of your life as an Orthodox Christian, who's there to guide you? If we don't have the proper bishops in place, if we don't have the proper priests in place, nothing's going to fall into order. So we need to really keep a watch this. This is very serious stuff. But yeah, so, you know, I want to go ahead here and read this part of this. I don't want to read this whole thing. This second article here talking about just basically Father Mark Hodges being removed, being suspended from the Orthodox Church in America. Again, it's from our friends over at Orthodoxy and Dialogue. And the title here is Father Mark Hodges removed from OCA clergy directory. An observant reader informed Orthodoxy and Dialogue yesterday afternoon that Father Mark Hodges has been removed from the Orthodox Church in America clergy directory pursuant to our reporting. You can see the H section directory here. Later in the day yesterday, a parishioner from the Lima, Ohio Mission Parish informed us in a letter to the editors that Hodges has been suspended, a decision delegated canonically to his diocesan bishop, Archbishop Paul Gassios. We are deeply grateful to His Eminence for recognizing the gravity of the situation. Again, like, really? Like, you think that's so serious that he needs to be suspended?
So yeah. So let's wait a sec. Gravity of the situation. So atheism, that's not grave. Kids watching pornography, that's not grave. Okay. And you can like talk about you can name a bunch of other stuff as well. Those are not grave. Attending a rally that turned into a couple people running into, as if this didn't even happen 7 months ago. What happened 7 months ago or something like that?
But not just 7 months ago. What happened for 6 months straight?
Yes.
You had government buildings being assaulted. You had small businesses being assaulted. Whatever it was a mess.
That's not great.
Especially
in
cities
Luke,
like Portland.
You see, Luke, small businesses, they don't matter. That's not grave. Who cares about small businesses? They can go starve. Okay. Right. But if the moment you touch the sacred, what's sacred about it? It's as sacred as an Indian river that's filled with shit. That's how sacred that place is. What's so sacred about it? But no, the backbone of America, the small businesses and all of those people who really got hurt, no one cares about. Yeah, we don't matter about them anyway. They can go die. Oh, they're Trump supporters anyway. They can go die. That's not grave. Attending a like a pro-Trump march with some of the people, no, that's grave. Give me a break, man. I mean, you're supposed to believe this. No, we're not a bunch of children. Neither are these bishops. These bishops probably know that, yeah, this is BS, but I have to do it because I want to save my own hide. I mean, good job. You're still going to be an archbishop. You're still going to have your position. Do you still have that position in the eyes of God? That's the question I want to ask. Do you really protect your own flock, or did you just throw out a guy you didn't want to be in the church? You just throw out a scapegoat, right?
Exactly.
So
that's all they're going to keep doing too. Yeah.
And so like I'm beyond like, obviously they have a higher rank and obviously all of that stuff. I'm not gonna be nice to people like that. I don't think we can like. I'm not saying oh yeah, let's like make memes about like bishops going to hell. I'm not saying that either. That's not only is it that in bad taste, that's unchristian. Okay.
Absolutely.
But what I'm saying is that we have to be zealous. We have to let them know that there are people who actually know what they're doing. And maybe they're going to have a change of heart. Maybe they will become the next saint afterwards. Like, who knows? Only God knows. Only they themselves know. But if no one pushes them to that, then we're actually condemning them to hell. And that's not a nice thing either. That's why it's necessary to be strong. Strength is necessary
Right.
because some people are not going to be strong by themselves. And sometimes there are going to be people that's going to get strength from other people, and they're going to become strong themselves, stronger than the people who armed them over time. I mean, Saint Augustine, I think, is one of those people, really. He was a weakling, and he became a strong person, and he became a very pious person who, even theologically, is a very important person. So
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I
It's
just
not
really
we're
I just really
you
dislike this weak, nice thing. I don't think
yeah,
this is what we
yeah.
need in Orthodoxy. It's what we need
Right.
amongst our brothers. Okay, like if I have a
Right.
problem with you, I need to be gentle with you. I need to be like I need to turn the other cheek. I need to be nice to you, even if you're pissing me off. But
Right.
a heretic, that's not how we're gonna play with those people. No.
Right. It's a whole different game, and that's like the problem here is too many people they don't understand that they misconstrue that teaching where oh, just be nice to everyone, just accept everyone. That's not the
Mm-hmm.
point,
Yeah.
right? And you have to remember that there are certain situations that can result in someone having an eternity in hell because they've been taught incorrectly. And again, you even look at Jesus himself walking into the temple. And when he
Yep.
saw the Jews there with, constructing, having their own celebration in there with the tables, setting up a market, whatever, he went through with a whip.
Mm-hmm.
He drove them out with a whip. And
Mm-hmm.
it's unbelievable to me that level, that zeal for the faith has been lost.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow the people who are left wing in Orthodoxy have picked up that attitude now. And they're the ones going through with a whip and
Mm-hmm.
reporting priests to the FBI and
Mm-hmm.
trying to essentially become the dominant force of Orthodox Christianity. It's ridiculous. We need to have that fervor and that faith to be able to stand up for what is right, because it's more serious even than a matter of life and death. This is
Mm-hmm.
spiritual life and death, an eternity with
Mm-hmm.
God or an eternity in hell. So we
Mm-hmm.
need to treat this like it is that, because it's very serious. So very
And
unfortunate
if you
that
have
we
a
haven't
problem,
been the
by the way,
ones
if you have a
to.
problem with this, you have a problem with Christ. Period. You don't have a problem with me.
Right.
I'm not bringing some like strong arm alpha Christianity, like make this like new Christianity. I'm just basing myself off of what Christ Himself teaches. It's exactly as you said. If if you went to church tomorrow and they married a homosexual couple inside the church, can you do what Christ did in his temple? I'm asking the based ones here. 99% of you will not be able to pull that off. 99%, you know what
Right.
you will do? You will go back on Twitter and you will bitch about it. That's what you will do.
Yep.
Okay? So this is
Right.
also
Right.
to the based people because none of us are strong enough anymore. And like even myself, I will know what I will do. Right? Maybe even
Right.
I will like do that. Even I will like turn back and say, "Oh, this is so bad. My church is infected." Instead of like getting in there with whatever I can grab and just shouting and say, "What are you doing?" Like
Right.
we need these kinds of people, and I think only persecution is going to give birth to people with that kind of zeal eventually. That's what I
Right.
think, at least.
Right, right. Yeah, that's the only way. And unfortunately, it's like too many people. Again, they've just lost that zeal for the faith. And what's that quote now? It's slipping my mind. I quote it so often, and now it's slipping my mind. Of the or the worst persecution for a church is no persecution at all. Something
Mm-hmm.
along that line, where it's like you have a church. Thank God we've been graced with being able to live as a church
Mm-hmm.
without persecution for so long, and especially here in the United States, we've never had to worry about that. But now we're coming to the realization that we're going to have to deal with it, and it's not something that we can just sit back on and let take over our church. There's a good story. Back at my old parish, there was the presiding priest there at the time. We had oratorical festivals, the St. John Chrysostom oratorical festivals, and there was a young lady who came up to present her speech, and she was talking about a friend of hers who was lesbian. And she was saying, basically that you just have to come around to the realization that we need to love and accept everyone,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of who they are, what their sexual orientation is. And not only is that incredibly inappropriate to discuss, again, in church in front
Mm-hmm.
of many
Yep.
young kids, but it's wrong, and it's antithetical to Orthodox dogma. So now the priest at the time ended up speaking to her in private, and she was, if I'm not mistaken, even selected to move on to the next level. He said no. He like nixed it. He was like, no, she's not moving on. She can't present a speech like that. And if she wants to move on, she's going to have to completely revamp her speech and redo it. So she did. She changed it and ended up moving on, whatever. But that's just something where we have to hold true like him. And he was an old priest. He was an old priest. He was someone who, he'd seen it all and he'd been through it. He knew, and he was very well educated too, especially on, the matters that took place in Russia. He knew, he foresaw it. If he in his parish at that specific time allowed for heresy to take place and allowed for it to spread, it would cause a problem further on down the line and spread like wildfire into other parishes. It would be heard about everywhere. It'd be a scandal. But then, of course, slowly it would devolve from a scandal into something that was widely accepted. But he knew he had no other option other than to cut it off right then and there. So going back to your question about, will we have the guts to stand up? Will we, right? Are we going to be able to be like my priest in that case and end up speaking out against this type of stuff when we see it on our parish councils, when we see it in our Sunday school, if you're, in the Greek Archdiocese, in your Goya, whatever, when you see this within your church, it needs to be cut, nipped in the bud, and done away with immediately. Otherwise, it's going to spread like wildfire.
Exactly.
So,
and you'll, like, when we say these things, you'll then get some people, and these I will call pseudo-spiritualists. They will say, this cultural war stuff you guys are talking about, that doesn't, the real cultural war is the spiritual warfare against passions. We are warring against passions right now. Not every passion is mental, okay? Not every passion is a mental thing. Sometimes it manifests itself in other ways, okay? That's number one. Number two, that kind of sentiment, I think people who spread that sentiment know exactly what they're doing, okay? They just want people to be pacified. They're trying to pacify people. In fact, they are the worst. They are the worst kinds of people because they will act like they are like, on your team when they let the opposing team do whatever they want because no, don't attack him, just let them do their thing, God will handle them. Maybe what if God wants me to handle him? Like, what makes you I mean, obviously sometimes it's us that God sends, right? Or someone else that sends. And if we stop them, aren't we stopping God? I mean, obviously that's the thing. But I've seen this from I'm not gonna name him, but some people might know him, like from a priest on Twitter, which I gotta be honest, 95% of priests on Twitter are terrible. They're really bad. They're really, really bad.
I know.
Don't trust those people. Trust Father John Whiteford. I trust him.
Yes.
Rest of them I don't trust. Father Peter Hears is kind of on Twitter, but he's not a regular there.
He barely ever posts.
Yeah, but I mean, the guy who said, like, let's for example analyze the guy who said that. The guy who says it, his whole shtick is about how blacks are being persecuted in America, which, I mean, like, I'm not saying don't talk about that, but I will say that's not spiritual warfare against passions in your lectionary, right? And he's like complaining and like just complaining about white supremacy as if it even exists today. Just give me a break, right? And all this kind of nonsense. And then you look at the organization he's a member of, the Brotherhood of Saint Moses the Black. I think you're gonna only hear this is the first time I'm saying this on YouTube. Do you know what they did? They went to black neighborhoods and tried to convince them to be tested for the chick stabby. I don't know how to say it.
Oh, really?
You know what I'm talking about, right? The less than 1% death rate protector, right? They said you should. So basically, they're going and telling black people to be experimented. Now, where have I seen that before? Black people being experimented by American government? I've never seen that played out. And now we have priests doing that? The priest that does that is Paul Abernathy. He's openly doing that. He's like, I'm doing this. I'm trying to convince black people to take the experimental thing. And it's like, you have to ask yourself, and he's Antiochian. He's not also, he's Antiochian. You have to ask yourselves, like, what is going on with these people? What's wrong with these people? But again, as I said in the talk of persecution, I mean, as I said, how are these people going to be called? Well, if we, like, either we can correct them and give them the chance to correct themselves, or God is going to call them. And we've seen in the Old Testament, how does God call people? Okay, that's one of his methods, right? Sometimes he might use other methods
Right.
that we don't know much about. And
Right.
do we want that to happen to them? I don't want to. I don't want them to
Right.
go through that. That's why I'm being mean to them. And that's kind of like the idea
Right.
of, you can say, Christian meanness or whatever, to protect them from whatever stuff. Because sometimes people speak in different languages. Some people understand from the language of gentleness. Some people don't
Right.
understand that language. And some people understand a
Right.
language of, you can't do this anymore. And that's what wisdom is, by the way, in Christianity. That's what wisdom is. Have you ever wondered why mercy and justice are both virtues, but they're contradictory? That's because you need to know when to be merciful and when to be just. God knows
Right.
it 100%. That's why he's always just and he's always merciful 100% all the time. He knows when to apply those virtues, you can say. And we should also do that. That's the point of wisdom. That's why, this cool little book right here. Do you know how many wisdom books there are in there? Proverbs. First of all, there's like the three main wisdom literature: Book of Job, Proverbs, and how can I forget the other one? I'm dumb. But you have the wisdom literature, then you have the wisdom of Sirach, you have
Wisdom of Sirach, yeah,
wisdom of Solomon. You have like a bunch of wisdom books in the Old Testament. Why did they even place it in the Bible? If
Right.
this is so simple. Well, it's not
Right.
simple. And it's that this is
Right.
one of the things that we're missing out on, is that we're missing out on wisdom. I think ultimately that's one of the biggest minuses that we have. And Ecclesiastes, I forgot. Yeah. Proverbs, Job, Ecclesiastes. Then you have the other wisdom books. You need to read them. You need to ask God for wisdom, and you need to know when to be just, when to be merciful, when to be gentle, and when to be harsh. And I think that's one
Yeah.
thing that we're really missing out on, and which is why all these
Reprimanding.
people
I
are.
think
Yeah.
reprimanding is the best word.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely. But of course, really, I shouldn't be telling you this. It should be a bishop or a
Right.
priest telling you this, to be honest with
Exactly.
you.
That's the exact problem that we find ourselves in.
Mhm.
And where does, of course, the education is incredibly important. That's where our bishops come into play. That's where our priests come into play. And if you're not receiving that proper education, you're not being told what to read, what to look at. You're going to stumble upon something like Orthodoxy and Dialogue or the Mole Monastery. So it's problematic. And, again, we're only going to see this grow if we don't nip it in the bud here. I want to point out in the live chat, it just caught my attention. We've gotten a couple of super chats. Shout out to everyone who's super chatted. And please go ahead and send in your super chats now if you haven't already. Be sure to like the video. I want to point out, though, I'm going to scroll up here. Gravantus is in the chat, and he said something. Yeah, here it is. He's had a couple of great takes in the live chat that I've noticed. And this one got my attention.
Oh,
He
of course,
said,
he has good takes. Yeah.
Yeah, he does. The real cultural warfare is against the passions, and then gets shot by Bolsheviks. Like literally, that's exactly.
He made
what
that
it
on
is.
Twitter. Yeah, he posted it on Twitter.
Yeah, that was great, because it's like that's literally the reality we're facing. If we don't talk about the cultural war, it's gonna come knocking on our door, bang our door down, and kill us. There's no other way around it.
What do they stand for other than passions? I mean, it's in the name.
Right.
Pride, parade.
Right.
What's pride? A
Right.
passion. What is that? A manifestation of a passion. If you don't deal with that, then you're basically actually saying you should do spiritual warfare, but actually don't do that. So
yeah,
it's funny because this kind of a view of spirituality is originistic, because what does spiritual mean for these people? Dematerialization. That's not how we believe.
Right.
Matter can be spiritual, right? Bodies can be spiritual.
Exactly.
What happens on this earth can be spiritual. And what's happening with these people is spiritual, even if it's material. It's still spiritual. There's no opposition. That opposition is originistic, which goes to show that none of these people even know that Origenism was even condemned. They don't even know what it even is. They just
exactly.
Oh, Origen, yeah, he's that whatever. They don't even know what they're talking about.
Right. They think he's an early church
Why do
father,
I know
and
this and our bishops and priests don't?
Yeah.
That's what I ask.
Right.
Why do I know this?
That's the problem. There's a disconnect in the education. There's a disconnect either coming from the seminaries, or there's a disconnect that is between the priest and his parishioners. So that, without a doubt, that's got to be corrected, and God willing, we'll continue to work on that as time goes on. Yeah, but it is ridiculous. I want to get to the main part here, talking
Let's
about
go. Yeah.
basically Father Seraphim Holland. Again, it's from Orthodoxy and Dialogue, talking about Father Seraphim Holland and Father Mark Hodges responding to the open letter on the Trump riot. And Father Seraphim Holland is basically of the same mind as Father Mark Hodges, and he writes here. He says, "This is a screenshot on Orthodoxy and Dialogue's website from Facebook." From Seraphim Holland. He says, an open letter was sent disparaging an Orthodox priest in order to cancel him. It was sent by Orthodoxy and Dialogue, which smugly announced at the end of their open letter, Orthodoxy and Dialogue seeks to promote the free exchange of ideas. No, they do not. They are part of the problem. God forgive them. They have no idea what Father Mark did. They hate him because he has ideas they hate. They hate him because he is outspoken, saying things that they hate. God forgive them. The idea that everyone that gathered in Washington is guilty and noxious and obscene. It is a leftist lie. Orthodox Christians are not leftists based. If they were honorable, they should have contacted Father Mark, and then, if not satisfied, contacted their bishop privately, but they are not honorable. It is a shame that nobody in authority has the courage to condemn these people and put them under penance.
Yes.
And then Mark Hodges goes along and talks about the unrepentant homosexual, of course, referring to the head of Orthodoxy and Dialogue, Giacomo Sanfilippo, who is a defrocked. He is, by the way, a defrocked homosexual priest. I don't know if I mentioned that. And basically talking about what happened and recapping. So Father Mark Hodges continues, what this tragic man needs to hear is this: sodomy is not love. Sodomy is actually an act of hate. Sodomy hurts physically, psychologically, biologically, emotionally, and spiritually. The homosexual condition is a tragic malady worthy of compassion and in desperate need of true love and care, not enabling. It is properly defined by the Latins as an intrinsic disorder. I consider myself a worse sinner than this man or any other man. My sincere, what level of humility? That is astounding, number one. But anyway, he continues. My sincere prayer is that this man attains freedom from the gay lifestyle and finds peace with God through repentance and confession. May the Lord Jesus Christ, our true God, have mercy on us all. Now, I want to take a second here to just reflect on the fact that this man was just forced into retirement by the person who he is currently praying for in this Facebook post. He was just kicked out of a job, fired for lack of a better word. He was fired from the priesthood. And it's like he has the restraint, I guess, and the compassion to still pray for this man and tell him like it is. This is what we're talking about, David. When we say you need to be reprimanding, you need to be a bit harsh. It's saying things like what he says. Sodomy is not love. Sodomy is actually an act of hate. Sodomy hurts physically, psychologically, biologically, emotionally,
in every
spiritually.
manner.
And these are things, right? These are things that, exactly, in every manner. These are things that people need to hear, who are leftist, who are gay, whatever. They got to hear this stuff. And thank God Father Mark Hodges is willing to say it. And what happened to him for it? You know, he was forced to resign. Now, go ahead.
Now, Luke, I've never seen this letter before. You didn't show me this before the stream. Everything I talked about is exemplified in that letter. So, first of all, I do know what I'm talking about. Basically, everything I've said is perfectly said by Father Mark. I mean, he said it perfectly. He had proper Christian humility. He spoke the truth. What did he say? These people, what did he say? They don't have honor, right? He was willing to go there. And that's the truth. These people don't have honor. And everything that we just talked about for like 20, 30 minutes, I think, is exemplified in that. And I had no idea that this letter even existed, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I should have sent it to you. That's my bad.
No, it worked out because like now I know, like, I'm not talking out of my butt. Like, this is what a real Orthodox Christian is. This is what a real Orthodox Christian is. Definitely.
Yes. God bless Father Mark Hodges. I mean, just for the record, in case it wasn't already clear, Orthodoxy First completely backs and stands behind Father Mark Hodges.
Yes.
I'm going to be personally trying to reach out to him and see if there's anything that can be done about this. I think that this is a travesty and it needs to be amended. Now, I want to finish off here with one last thing. The editorial comments from Orthodoxy and Dialogue. There are some disgusting statements here. So I don't want to read through all of them. It's very repetitive. But essentially, they say that, we didn't actually mean this. We weren't trying to be mean to Father Mark Hodges. We were just saying that his participation in a Trump riot concerned Orthodox Christians, and it was a bad thing, and blah blah whatever. Now, who cares? Number one, the damage has been done. Number two, they make some pretty obscene statements here that are just ridiculous and, again, antithetical to orthodoxy. And they say, number one, they say they don't hate Father Mark Hodges, which is ridiculous. They clearly hate him. But in number 4 of the editorial comments here, Giacomo Sanfilippo brings up Orthodox, the quote from the Facebook post from Father Mark Hodges, the quote, "Orthodox Christians are not leftists." Now, this I got a kick out of this here, and you will too, David.
All
So
right,
Giacomo Sanfilippo, he takes that quote, which is Orthodox Christians are not leftists, and he says, "We recommend that Father Holland," who is the other priest talking about this, "we recommend that Father Holland study the history of late 19th, early 20th century Russian Orthodoxy and get to know some actual Orthodox people. It is also a verifiable fact that Father Holland's son, Daniel, of thrice blessed memory, was a young, politically active Democrat at the time of his death," as if that justifies anything, number one. Number two, saying that Father Holland and implicitly Father Mark Hodges need to study Russian Orthodoxy of the late 19th and early 20th century. Of course you do, because it is nothing but monarchism. It is nothing but right wing.
First of all, last time I checked, the Orthodox Christians in Russia were in the catacombs because communists invaded Russia. Oh, so that's what he's supposed to learn.
Right, and now there are a couple places that you could go with this. Number one, like my sister is currently reading Notes from a Dead House by Dostoevsky, which is Dostoevsky's time in prison. And basically, because Dostoevsky was an anarchist, he was a member of a very radical anarchist group before he went to prison, repented, and became one of the most fervent czarists in the history of Russia. But regardless, he's writing these letters, and this is his conversion process, essentially. And it's ridiculous. It's just completely idiotic to imply that Russian literature at this time period is anything but czarist and right wing. And that of it which was Leo Tolstoy, was anathematized. He was excommunicated by Saint John of Kronstadt, who was the father confessor to Tsar Saint Nicholas and the Holy Romanovs. So this is just completely
Tolstoy is a
blasphemous.
Disgusting freak. I've done enough research on him.
He's a sex addict. He's a weirdo. And these and again,
do you want to know why he became Christian? He literally said, if God doesn't exist, life doesn't have meaning, so I'm going to pretend God exists. That's literally, he's an absurdist.
There you go.
Now, first of all, he's an absurdly idiotic person, and he's just an absurdist that's just aped Camus' philosophy and applied it to Christianity. And that's why he called himself a Christian anarchist. He hated the church. Right, exactly. He hated anything about any institution. And what did he do? He basically said, oh, it's all about a personal relationship with you and God. Basically, the typical secularist nonsense that we hear all the time. Not even Protestant. That's just a secularist nonsense you hear all the time. Not just from Protestant, but from secularists. You can say Muslims, Buddhists. They all say the same thing as well. So it's like, if you want to learn about them, we can. The most we can learn is that we can learn why they went to hell. Yeah, that's sure, and why we should not do what they did. Not learn. And also another thing I wanted to note. Why just 19th and 20th century again? Can they explain that? Why not the rest of Christian history? I thought that would be important as well. Why don't we look at what any of the saints in the 5th, 4th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th century said? Why only Russians in the 19th? I mean, it's not as if the Russian saints say anything wrong. It's just that we don't have... Our views don't depend on like a couple of saints in like a specific time period, but it's dependent on the entire church history. That's what our views are dependent on. It's not just a bunch of people. So that's just a silly comment.
Absolutely, it's ridiculous. And I mean that's the problem. And I think that Giacomo Sanfilippo over at Orthodoxy and Dialogue clearly has not seen the anathemas or read the anathemas against those who would, what is the exact wording? Those who think that Orthodox emperors are not anointed by the Holy Spirit. Yeah. And there are clear anathemas against this, which are directed at leftists such as Vladimir Lenin, who had the same type of ideology that Giacomo Sanfilippo is promoting. There are specific anathemas against these people, and it's ridiculous. But anyway, I mean, and we could go on about the idiocy of Orthodox Christians who think they can be leftists forever, but I don't want to dwell on that. I mean, apparently there was a bit of hiccup in the live stream for a second there, but we're back online, I think, so we're good.
Yeah.
But
Well, I'm recording from my
anyway,
side, so the full recording is
perfect.
like from my side is gonna be there. No worries.
That's true. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But anyway, we're about out of time here. We covered quite a bit on this topic.
Sure.
But this stream is getting, we had a record amount of viewers today, David, on this show.
Dang, good job.
So that it can be publicly announced. Yeah, we had I think 109 viewers at our peak or something like that. So we had a record
That's
number
cool.
there. And thanks to everyone who's been watching. Yeah, thank you, David. But David, I wanted, before we end up closing it, well, number one, please send it a super chat if you haven't already, and be sure to like, share, and subscribe this video.
Yep.
But David, I want, if you have any last thoughts just on this whole situation and on the ridiculous of it with Father Mark Hodges.
Yeah, so at the risk of sounding like a guru, well, this is from the Atenite monks. They say that the number one biggest problem is that there's a lack of prayer on this issue. So obviously we don't forget that. However, what does Saint James say in his what does he say? He says faith without works is dead. And people think that's like, oh, that's there to dunk on the Protestants. No, wait a second. Faith without works is dead. That means if you don't live your faith, what does living your faith mean? Well, if you sit on your cuck shed and all you do is, oh, I pray Giacomo San Filippo stops being a F4660T and do nothing about it, that's faith without works. Okay, that's faith without works. But if you actually pray and you act on your faith, that is faith that is actually alive and living. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't understand, is that that's what active faith is. Active faith is with your active movement. And if I want to go into even like deep theology, this is the point of Saint Maximus's idea of the two wills of Christ, where there's like an actual human volition, activity, and life, human life in Christ, you can say. And we have that human life in ourselves, and we need to cooperate with God, first of all, to be saved, but even to live the faith properly. So we can't just be a bunch of cuckshed guys and just like, I'm not saying being a hermit is bad, obviously. Being a hermit, first of all, is a very difficult thing. It's not for everyone, and it's a very, very special thing. And hermits are very important people, but hermits play their part. You should also play your part, right? When we have people praying for the salvation of America, for the spread of the Orthodox faith, do you know what they're basically asking from God? They're asking God, send someone to do this job, right? In a way. And sometimes, God wants you to do that job, and if you're not going to do that job, then someone else is going to be chosen. So I'm not like getting into I'm not going to get too much into detail, how it's all done, but you get the idea. Essentially, we need to work as much as we can, and this starts on a parish level. This doesn't start on an online level. It can be influential in an online level, which is the point of why we're even doing this, but this ultimately starts at a parish level, and you need to start from the ground up, improve your parish, and then kind of move on from there. I mean, isn't it a travesty that we don't have Orthodox brotherhoods? I mean, imagine that in the US. We don't have Orthodox brothers. We don't have fraternities that young men can join and gather together and eat together, do activities together, and whatever. And, just exchange information with each other and contacts and whatnot. We don't have that kind of stuff, to my knowledge. We don't have that. So for that to even happen, it needs to start at a parish level, and this is going to be very unfair of me to say, because it is unfair, that you have to be, not only do you have to be just a very good Christian overall, you have to be educated, you have to be very social and know how to speak with people and how to make them like you, how to make them listen to you. You have to know how to be respectful even with people you hate. You have to know how to love your enemies, including the ones that are in the church. But that is going to be different. For example, if you have a personal problem, like again, with the example, if I have a personal problem with you, Luke, and I bicker with you over oh, Luke said something about me and I didn't like that. That's not good. and I've done that before, so this goes against me. But
Mm.
all of these things, right? We have to gentle with our brothers, but against people that are in the church spreading heresy, obviously we can't be gentle. But the point I'm getting
Right.
is we have to be kind of just perfect, and we have to do everything we
Right.
can. And that's the unfair part, because I mean, we're a bunch of POSs, right? It's very
Right.
difficult for
Right.
us
Right.
to
Right.
be perfect, but we have to be, and we have to try our best. Again, like, think of it as a utopia. Is utopia possible? No, it's impossible. Should we
Right.
strive for the best that we can? Of course not. If you don't
Yes.
try to be the best, then you're not trying. And
Right.
that's what I want you to get away with, is that you should try your best to live the faith, live the Orthodox Christian. I'm not saying you should try your best to save the faith. You should live the faith. By living it, you're going to save it. That's how you're going to say it properly. And this goes to myself,
Exactly.
this goes to you, this goes to everyone listening. So this is not just some empty platitude. This is a real action that we need to take. And be patient, right? This is not going to be instantaneous. It's going to take a lot of us a long time. A lot of us, I assume a lot of us who are listening to this, we're all a bunch of neophytes. Okay, we're a bunch of noobs. So
Mm.
give yourself some time, be patient, and keep yourself in the faith. And eventually you will be the Orthodox Christian that you kind of dreamt of. Kind of. Not fully,
Right.
because
Right.
you should never think of yourself as a saint, but you will look at yourself and say, wow, 10 years ago I was a terrible person. Now I'm actually someone that I can respect myself now. So that's what
Right.
we should be. We should be like Father Mark. We should be like Father Seraphim Hall. We should be like all these good priests, Father Josiah, Father Peter Heers, Father John Whiteford. We should be like these people, and we
Yes.
should not make their efforts vain. And ultimately, we should not make
Right.
God's efforts and faith in us. We should make that in vain as well. We should have faith in God, and we should accomplish what God wanted from us. And that's kind of what I want to
Yep.
end with.
Amen. That's that. Very well said, man. Awesome. Awesome. Way to end it here. And
Yes.
let's keep Father Mark Hodges in our prayers, everyone. Keep this whole situation in your prayers. Keep that parish, St. Paul the Apostle in Ohio, in your prayers. And like what David was saying in terms of the brotherhood, David, I know you have a Telegram. I have a Telegram. I've linked my Telegram in the description. Be sure to join there. People are like-minded. There are people in there who want to talk about these things, who are encouraged by seeing more of us out there. So definitely something we need to consider while we move forward with this, with our endeavor in the Orthodox faith. But that being said, we're gonna move on to our super chats here. We've gotten quite a few of them today, so we're gonna move on here. There's some on YouTube here that aren't showing up because I don't want to miss anyone. But we'll do our best here. So we'll go through, and forgive me if I don't read out your chat. Please reach out to me personally on Telegram or Twitter. Let me know that I didn't read your chat, and I'll read it next time. I don't want to cheat anyone out of any money. But we're gonna go through here, and we are going to read out these chats. I wish. What is it? Nick Fuentes always has like a bubbly when he reads super chats, and I'm starting to get more and more of them. I might need to bring down a can of Coke or something, crack open a Coke as I read these super chats. Yeah.
Well, we can always just drink water, just coffee.
Yeah, exactly. We have our empty mug here. You can't profess the Orthodox faith without having an Orthodoxy First mug. But which will be available soon. I'll have a store up, God willing, soon, and we'll put the mugs. But anyway, I'm gonna refresh Entropy here and see if there are any new chats, because again, I don't want to miss anyone's stuff here. And we're gonna get to reading these wonderful super chats from our friends who are watching. So
I wish YouTube let me have super chats. Did you know that they don't allow Turkey to have super chats? That's disabled.
Are you kidding?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
It is.
Wow. That's ridiculous.
I mean, it's not disabled like it's banned. It's just that I guess they haven't made any agreements with the Turkish banks or whatever. So
right. Wow, that's very strange. I actually did not know that. Dang. Anyway, all right, we're gonna move on here. So Doorman360 donated $5. Big shout out, thank you, Doorman360. He says, people who are unrepentant of certain sins should not commune, as stated by Father Thomas Hopko of the OCA. It will damage the flock. Zero tolerance. Yeah, I mean, I think that's exactly right. If you're, like a homosexual or something, and you're blatant about it, you are putting yourself outside of communion with the Orthodox Church. So yeah, definitely repent. That's the key.
That's what the liturgy says. I mean, you should be I mean, if you're like, first of all, we're all unworthy, but there's being unworthy, and then there's being unworthy, right? And so the liturgy says it is kind of clear, honestly, that you should take
Yeah.
communion, even if it's like a small sin. If you're unrepentant of it, you should stay away from it. Honestly, it's for your betterment.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. All right, we got one from Lamberot here. He donated $10. Big shout out, thank you, Lamberot. He says this political stuff. He says this political stuff is cool and all, but give the people what they really want: Kendrat, Med White, Pokemon Shadow matches, Gen 2, meta only, best of 3. Winner gets the Ortho e-girls. Well, I don't think.
Oh, I'm gonna deliberately lose then. You can take them all. You can take them all. I don't want any of them.
I don't think that my wonderful girlfriend would appreciate that. So we'll leave the Ortho e-girls out there.
And we'll make some other condition. Yeah.
Yeah, we will. That I like that though. Good. Thank you, Lambert. Really appreciate that, man.
Thank you, sir.
We have another one from Lamberot. He donated $3 and he says, "No, honey, I'm not wasting our savings on e-celebs. I'm fighting the culture war with my super chats to Orthodoxy first." That's exactly right. You're not wasting your life savings. You're donating it to a good cause. You're donating it to a good cause. You're donating it to Luke Kendrat.
You know, when I use that money to buy visual novels, I will remember your donation. I'm just kidding. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not paying money for that shit.
Exactly.
I have my friends that can gift them the game. Yeah. No piracy though. No piracy.
Yeah.
No piracy.
Exactly. Yeah. So but that's the thing. But back to what our friend Lambert was saying. We need to reinforce the policy of Nick Fuentes on this show, which is no e-girls ever.
I mean, anyone who knows me, knows that I'm like the biggest guy who does that. So I got myself into troubles with many e-girls because of my stance on this kind of yeah. So it's like those, and what happened to the ortho moms? I told them to get GTFO, go look after your own kids, and some of them actually listened. So if that kid grows up and becomes an actual good person, that kid should thank me. I was the one who told them. I'm just kidding, but I mean, imagine being a parent and you spend your time getting mad online instead of looking after your kid. I mean, you're a failure as a parent if you do that.
Seriously, yep, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous, but and that's why we're reinforcing the policy on this show. No e-girls ever. We don't tolerate it. Not fans. Find a girl in real life, date her, marry her, because it's a waste of time to be looking for girls online. Anyway. So that being said, we have a donation from the George Soros of the movement, Pano Costuros. Big shout out. Thank you for the $3, Pano. He says, Athanasius Mitalianos talked about this very issue of clerical betrayal. We need to take our place as laity, become strong and raise future laity, priests and monks. Don't let Christ vomit you. That's exactly right. Yeah, that's great point. Start a family, raise those who love God, love the faith, want to become clergy, and want to serve God and our families. Exactly. Absolutely right. Thank you, Paolo, for the $3. We have one here from Jeremy Klein for $5. He says, "Love the show. Got any tips on being Orthodox on a college campus? Christ keep you." Yeah. So, David, have you ever been on campus, or have you always done online?
I've studied in the U.S. for 1.5 years. I've been on a college campus. The first thing Actually, I'm not the best one to ask this question, because you know what I did when I was on college campus? I stayed at home and played video games, so you should probably not do that. Right. I didn't really
that's probably not the
spend
best.
time the best way, but I will say if you have ortho bros your age in your church, whatever, spend as much time as you can with them. They're really the only like my ortho bros in shout outs to them that were my friends there. They're the only reason why I've probably not jumped off a bridge or anything like that, or if I'm a human being, they're the reason why. So they're going to be really important for you. Other than that, the first, what I will say is that don't be too bothered with trying to do apologetics. However, be prepared to defend your faith. And what's really important is, I will say, especially, I know Jeremy a bit. I think he should. I don't want to like put him on the spot or anything, but I think you definitely should like look after yourself, like number one.
Mm,
And you should stabilize yourself in your faith, and you should get a rhythm going so that when you can
mm,
look at other stuff, you will have a better perspective of seeing things. Because I put the cart before the horse. Before I even read the Bible, I looked up filioque stuff. You should not do that. Okay, you should
mm,
learn about the
mm.
basics of the faith. And sometimes this is the beautiful part about the Christian faith. The basics are going to be giving you a huge, huge, huge lesson. If I
Right.
if if I can say even something barely Christian in my dumbass state, it's because I've looked into the basics. It's because I eventually
Hmm.
said, let's stick to the fundamentals. I've understood the fundamentals as much as I can, and I'm still doing that. That's why I have a good idea of what I'm talking about. And your priest is gonna be helpful for that. If your priest is gonna be helpful, there you can. Online is a good thing. Okay, you can always find kind of these role models. I am not your role model though. If any of you think I'm a role model, you're a dumbass. Okay, you're actually an idiot. I'm not a role model. Go find a priest to be like look up to. Don't
Yes.
look up to me. I'm
Same for
I'm
me. Same
literally
for me.
yeah, I'm
Absolutely.
literally a dude who plays video games and occasionally reads church fathers.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not even special.
Right. Exactly. I mean, and I
Yeah.
feel the exact same way. You know, it's like, look, I'm a guy who lifts
Hmm.
weights and occasionally reads theology. So,
Yeah, I lived in
but
the library.
yeah, yeah. There you
Well,
go.
well,
There you
we
go.
do
The
that
most
together. Yeah.
important place. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, my advice, I guess. So I'll tell you, last year I was at a university. I think everyone already knows this anyway. I was at the University of Mary Washington, which is down at a very small school down in Fredericksburg, and I'm not there anymore. That was my freshman year of college, and there was nothing Orthodox on campus. I actually hung out with Catholics for most of my freshman year of college, and now on the one hand, thank God for that, because my Catholic apologetics definitely got better and better. I definitely was able to debate them, and we had some good discussions. I would actually speak with, there was a chaplain there at the CCM, and we would talk frequently, and we would discuss theology. So I would say, it was a good experience and everything, and it was good to learn their theology better, to debate against it, but and wonderful people too. But that being said, the best thing, for being an Orthodox Christian on a college campus, this is actually a good idea for a show. I might do a whole show on this, but there's a lot to be said for this. But what I would say, number one, is just make sure that you have a church nearby, period, because that killed me. Like, I was driving, thank God I had a car. I had my little PT Cruiser, my freshman year of college, and I was driving it, like, what, 35, 40 minutes to get to church. And that's great and all, but it prevents you, especially depending on your class times. Like, that was preventing me from making it to most of the services. I could really only go to, like, liturgy on Sunday. And it's like, make sure you have something nearby. Make sure you have a close knit community of Orthodox Christians on campus, people who think like you, and stay by those friends. Make sure that you're maintaining your Orthodox Christianity while you're on campus. It's not an easy thing to do. And again, I'll probably honestly do a show on this, because it's a very intense topic. It's not an easy thing, because you have a lot of temptations. You have girls, you have idiot friends. If you're on a sports team, you have temptations of parties, whatever. You got to really be careful. I would say the number one thing: make sure. And again, I'm no priest, I'm no authority on this, but make sure you're keeping a good prayer rule, maintaining your spiritual life, and staying close to those who are like-minded. Especially in universities today, it's incredibly easy to be influenced by leftist, Marxist thought, and you're persecuted essentially if you don't agree with that thought. So, got to be careful, and you have to make sure that you're still cultivating a healthy and good spiritual life on campus. So, I would definitely say that. Maybe keep a strong prayer rule, and make sure you're staying away from temptations like parties and women, whatever. So those are kind of my key things. But yeah, if there's an OCF on campus, I recommend looking into that. A lot of them are kind of cringe, but look into it, see if there's someone
Yeah.
there, see if they're
You can
like-minded.
find one or
That's a
two
great
good
thing.
people in there, yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. You can make some great friendships there, without a doubt. Without a doubt. So that's what I'd say to that. I mean, there's a lot more we can talk about with that. I might make a show on that. That's a good idea. But thank you so much, Jeremy, for that. We have a donation here from Nathaniel Hill. He donated $20.21. Happy New Year. He did that same thing a couple streams ago. Big shout out. Thank you, Nathaniel. He just sent in an Orthodox cross. So he just sent in a donation. Big shout out. Appreciate it, Nathaniel. Appreciate you watching. We have a super chat here from Pathodin for $25. Thanks so much, Pathodin. Appreciate that. Massive shout out. He says, thanks for having this based Orthodox guest. Of course, David is based. He's one of my favorite guests to have on. Nice so we had a great discussion. He said, keep up the good work. May God bless you both. Really appreciate that, Pathodin, from the bottom of my heart. God bless you and your family. Huge shout out. We have another super chat here from Trash Skelet for $5. Thank you, Trash Skelet. Appreciate that, man. He says, Christ is baptized in the Jordan. Happy Theophany. Yes, absolutely. I forgot to start off with that. Blessed Theophany, blessed feast to all of our friends. Of course, those on the old calendar. I myself am on the old calendar. And, you know, blessed feast to everyone. And let us remember today, Christ was baptized in the Jordan. And
I want to make this comment because, I was baptized on Theophany according to the new calendar. So that's my...
There you go.
January 6th was my anniversary, second year anniversary, in fact.
That's
since
beautiful.
I become baptized. Yeah.
That's beautiful, man. Oh, God bless you. Yeah, it's important to reflect on the date of your baptism and reflect on the importance of the significance, I should say, of that moment in our lives, because that's when the Holy Spirit, we were united into the body of Christ, and thank God for that. Very significant day. We accepted God's grace and the grace of the Holy Spirit. So very important, very significant day, and remember that today on Theophany. So big shout out to Trash Skelet. We have one from Doorman360. He says, sort through the normie docs to find the true bros. Thank you. Appreciate that, Doorman360. Yeah, there are definitely a lot of normie docs, and got to watch out for that. Absolutely.
You can easily sort them out. First of all, don't go on Reddit.
Yeah.
Second of
bingo,
all,
seriously.
I'm going to be shilling the Discord. Go to JCore, what we would call it. It's called Orthodox Christian Discord. 5K members. Yep. I'm one of the admins there. If there's normie dogs are not the norm there, okay? The norm are the good Orthodox Christians there. So definitely join that Discord if you want Orthodox Christians to talk with. Does it have problems? Any Discord that has a lot of members has a lot of problems. I've been on Discord for like 5 years now. I will know this better than anyone. But it's honestly the best Orthodox server I've been in. Like, and even though it's a big server, that's how good it is. But yeah, definitely join there if you want to. If you don't want to deal with normie dogs. Normie dogs are icky. Don't deal with them.
Yeah, absolutely. No, definitely. I love the Discord. I'm in that. David's in that. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that does it for our super chats. And that's actually going to be it for the show tonight. So appreciate everyone watching. David, thanks so much for coming on, man. And God bless everyone who was watching tonight, and God bless your families. And remember, of course, absolutely. And today was a wonderful day. Blessed feast of Theophany. God bless you all. And I will see you all on Thursday. I will be back with another episode of Orthodoxy First.
Bye.
Oh, wait. We had one more chat here. From Pablo Costudo. He says, for $2, again, the George Soros of the movement. Thank you, Pablo. He says, Jay's Discord will boost your IQ. Get on there now. Yeah, he's absolutely right. I love it. It's some great conversations.
Make sure to post it in the description if you can, or like even
yes,
in the chat.
I will. Absolutely. Yeah, I'll put that right in the description. Yeah, definitely. So just go to the description, go on to the Discord. You'll have a great time. All right, guys. God bless you all, and I will see you on Thursday at 7 p.m. EST.
Goodbye.